Zechariah chapter 8. And the word of Yahweh of hosts came to me, saying, Thus said Yahweh of hosts, I shall be jealous for Zion with great jealousy, with great wrath I shall be jealous for her. Thus said Yahweh, I shall return to Zion, and I shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem shall be called City of Truth, and the mountain of Yahweh of hosts, the set-apart mountain. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, Again, old men and old women shall dwell in the streets of Jerusalem, each one with his staff in his hand because of great age. And the streets of the city shall be filled with boys and girls playing in the streets. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, If it is marvelous in the eyes of the remnant of the people in these days, should it also be marvelous in my eyes, declares Yahweh of hosts. We'll come to commentary. We're going to read all of this and then come back to commentary. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, See, I am saving my people from the land of the sunrise and from the land of the sunset. And I shall bring them back, and they shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem, and they shall be my people, and I shall be their Elohim in truth and in righteousness. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, Let your hands be strong, you who are listening in these days to these words from the mouth of the prophets. But the day of foundation was laid in the house of Yahweh of hosts. The Hekal, the temple, was to be rebuilt. For before these days there was not a wage for a man, nor a hire for a beast. There was no peace for him who went out or came in because of his enemies. And I set all men one against another. But now I am not as in the former days to the remnant of this people, declares Yahweh of hosts. Because of the sowing of peace of the vine does give its fruit. The ground does give her increase, and the heavens do give their due. And I shall cause the remnant of this people to inherit all these. And it shall be, as you were a curse among the nations, O house of Judah and house of Israel, so I shall save you, and you shall be a blessing. Do not fear, let your hands be strong. For thus said Yahweh of hosts, As I purposed to do evil to you when your fathers provoked me, declares Yahweh of hosts, and I did not relent, so again in these days I have purposed to do good to Jerusalem and to the house of Judah. Do not fear. These are the words you should do. Speak the truth to one another. Judge with truth, and right ruling for peace in your gates. And do not plot evil in your heart against one another, and do not love a false oath, for these I hate, declares Yahweh of hosts. That deserves an underline. And the word of Yahweh of hosts came to me, saying, Thus said Yahweh of hosts, the fast of the 4th, and the fast of the 5th, and the fast of the 7th, and the fast of the 10th months are to be joy and gladness and pleasant appointed times for the house of Judah, and they shall love the truth and peace. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, People shall yet come, inhabitants of many cities, and the inhabitants of the one go to another, saying, Let us earnestly go and pray before Yahweh and seek Yahweh of hosts. I myself am going. And many peoples and strong nations shall come to seek Yahweh of hosts in Jerusalem and pray before Yahweh. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, In those days 10 men from all languages of the nations take hold, yes, and they shall take hold of the edge of the garment of a man, a Yehudi, saying, Let us go with you, for we have heard that Elohim is with you. Zechariah, our boy Z, contemporary of the prophet Haggai. And as we discussed in Zechariah chapter 1, Zechariah means Yahweh, Yah, God remembers. And this is written during a transitional period of Babylonian rulership to Persian rulership, Medo-Persian Empire. And the exiles of the house of Judah that were taken by Babylon. Remember Nebuchadnezzar and Belteshazzar, and Hezekiah has his eyes put out, his son's slain in front of him, and then his eyes put out, just brutal stuff. And then they take them away to Babylon. Daniel, the prophet Daniel. This is all about approximately 586 BC. Well, we fast forward to 70 years later, approximately. They spend the exiles of the house of Judah, which is comprised of the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Benjamin, and a portion of the Levites, not all of them. A third to 2/3 of the Levites spend this dwell time in Babylon, which is why Prophet Ezekiel is laying on one side for 70 days. That's to represent the 70 years of captivity of the house of Judah. Well, the Persian Empire gives way, the Babylonian Empire gives way to the Medo-Persian Empire. And then we have, in the second year of Darius, King Darius. So the Persian King Darius says, you know what? Y'all can go back. Paraphrasing. A whole lot of history in one sentence. Y'all can go back. And so the exiles begin to return to the land. And they're returning to the land under the governorship, the civilian leadership of Zerubbabel, who is in the lineage of Messiah listed in Matthew chapter 1. And under the leadership, the tutelage of Zechariah, who's a priest and the prophet underneath Zerubbabel, and his contemporary prophet Haggai, in the mouths of 2 or 3 let a thing be established, and the minor prophet that we'll find here in the Bible, Nehemiah, or Nehemiah, depending on which part of the world you're from and what kind of English or not English you speak. So this is a very concentrated time of action, but also of scripture. We have a lot of witnesses on what is happening during this time, the rebuilding of the temple, or what's called the Second Temple period. The original temple was destroyed by the Babylonians in 587 BC, and now here they come back. Second Temple's being rebuilt between 521 BC and 516 BC. These first 8 chapters were written by Zechariah right around 520 BC, in the midst of the temple being rebuilt, and they're written as encouragement to a portion of the Father's people, the house of Judah, saying, hey, you guys are doing a good job, keep going. So the first 8 chapters of Zechariah, Bible scholars believe, and be careful when you read Bible scholars, research the researchers. More than half of Bible scholars study the Bible but don't believe. And why is that important? Because their secular nature affects their interpretation. They change timelines around. They change interpretations around because they don't believe in miracles, because they don't know Yahweh. So, Bible scholars believe, although there's a consensus on this from the believing and the unbelieving, that the first 8 chapters of Zechariah were written by Zechariah himself around 520 BC, during the period that the Second Temple is being rebuilt. The last 5 chapters, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that's 6 chapters. Were written by an understudy, an apostle of Zechariah, about 20 years later in 500 BC. So there's a shift in the narrative when we get to chapter 9, which we haven't done yet, but we will do in the next video, because we see a foreshadowing of Mashiach ben Yosef, the Messiah of Joseph, which is a rabbit hole we'll jump into next week when we get there, because there's 2 biblical lines of prophecy concerning Messiah. So had the Yehudim been reading and interpreting scripture, they would not have been surprised when Messiah resurrected, and the expectation of the Christios, the Christian, the follower of Messiah, the anointed one, the Christ, that he would return again, because there's Mashiach ben Yosef, the suffering servant, who suffers and atones for his people, the first coming. Then there's Mashiach ben David, the righteous king in the line of King David, the warrior king, Revelation 19, the return, the second coming of Christ. So when we get to chapter 9, it's likely that that wasn't Zechariah that wrote it. It was a student of Zechariah whose writings were then compiled with the first 8 chapters written by our boy Z himself. So with that, go back to Zechariah chapter 1. And you should have your word out. You should be confirming everything that I'm saying by putting your own eyeballs in your own Bible, not just taking my word for it. So, right off the bat, 8 verse 1. And the word of Yahweh of hosts came to me. This is the Lord Yahweh Sabaoth. We've seen this phrase before. Malachi 3:6 comes to mind. I'm the Lord Yahweh Sabaoth, I change not, which will be pertinent here in a moment. I change not. Yahweh Sabaoth, these hosts, are the hosts of the heavenly armies. This is, when we see this Yahweh Sabaoth, this is in the context of the general is speaking, okay? As I've said previously, it would be akin to, General James Mattis, United States Marine Corps. Okay? So when Mattis was still active duty, when he spoke for and with the authority of and the power of all 235,000 of Uncle Sam's misguided children. Okay? So when Mattis said, you should listen, the implication was, if you don't, I'm going to stick Marines so far up your derriere that you're not going to know which way is up. And they're going to make the grass grow. So pay attention. Well, that's the physical, fleshly equivalent of this spiritual Yahweh of hosts. And his army, these angelic beings, remember back to the diaspora, when the Assyrian army exiles the 10 northern tribes in 721 BC. Prior to that, Shomeron, Samaria, is surrounded, the capital of the 10 northern kingdoms. And the prophet Elisha is with his manservant Gehazi. And they're surrounded. And Gehazi says, Master, we're surrounded. And Elisha says, no, look, Gehazi, look. And instead of looking in the flesh and being afraid, Gehazi looks with his spiritual eyes. And he realizes, oh, the Assyrians are surrounded. Because in the center, imagine a target, a bullseye target. The center ring is Shomeron. And one ring out from that is all the Assyrians. They got them completely surrounded. But one ring out from that is an army of angels. That's what Gehazi sees. And that night, one angel of the Lord, Yahweh Sabaoth, one goes out and slays 185,000 Assyrians. And the following morning, and the Assyrian army's routed. They run away so fast, they leave all their stuff, their livestock and their animals and their weapons and their tents and their everything. They just run as fast as they can to get away from this angel of the Lord. And so the siege of Shomron is broken, and they have food because the army left their food. That's what one angel does. And the Father has entire corps of angels. And so that's the authority that the Father's speaking with here. Yahweh of hosts, Yahweh Sabaoth. This is the power that is in that phrase is unheard of. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, I shall be jealous for Zion with great jealousy. This jealousy, the Hebrew connotation is to be red in the face, and not with shame, but with deep emotion. Zion. What is Zion? It's a pet name for Israel. Israel, Genesis 32, being the Father's chosen people. Israel, Ephesians 2, being what we are grafted into by the blood of Messiah. For we were apart from Messiah, and therefore apart from Israel and the covenants of the Father. We had no expectation of Elohim in the world. But now that we are a part of Messiah, we are a part of Israel. Beware the name games that have been played forever, but especially since 1948 with the Balfour Declaration and the Rothschilds and all of that. I shall be jealous for Zion with great jealousy, with great wrath. I shall be jealous for her. Wrath. So think about someone is trying to harm your wife. It'd be a really dumb idea. That's a great way. If you were to try and harm my wife, that is a guaranteed way to experience my wrath, because I'm jealous for her. I will protect her. I love her. I'm responsible for her. I am her provider. Okay, so this is Yahweh, our husband. For your maker is your husband. Isaiah. Thus said Yahweh, I shall return to Zion. I, Yahweh, shall return to Zion, and I shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. So he's moving his covering back over Jerusalem. Now, because of their disobedience previously, they were exiled to Babylon. They were put in time out to learn a lesson. Well, Yah's saying, hey, I'm going back to Jerusalem. Now, again, in context of the rebuilding of the second temple, this is really important. Like, is Yah going to bless this? Yes. That's what he's saying. Yes, I will bless this. I will bless your obedience. It's Deuteronomy 28, which we will touch on momentarily. And Jerusalem shall be called City of Truth, and the mountain of Yahweh of hosts, the set-apart mountain. City of Truth, not city of our worldly bullcrap, not city of our religions and doctrines and dogmas, not city of our opinions. City of Truth, and the mountain of Yahweh of hosts, because Yahweh dwells there. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, again old men and old women shall dwell in the streets of Jerusalem, each one with his staff in his hand because of great age, and the streets of the city shall be filled with the boys and girls playing in the streets. The city previously was destroyed. It was ransacked by the Babylonians. It's part of the rebuilding that is going to take place here. Again, this city will be safe for our children and our elderly, the weakest parts of our population. There'll be a restoration here. Now, the temple is about to be completed in 516 BC. It's not going to be another 60 years after this until the temple walls are rebuilt. The city walls are rebuilt. But even then, the city will be safe because Yahweh is here. It'll be safe for our old people. It'll be safe for our children. I have people in my family, on my property, ranging from the ages of 15 months old to 87, almost 88 years old. Who requires the most attention from a safety, security, provisional standpoint? The old and the young. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, if it is marvelous in the eyes of the remnant of this people in these days, those who are left over, the Father always preserves a remnant. What does Messiah say? The poor shall be with you always. Poor, by the way, we translate as monetary in 2025 English-speaking Western concepts. Poor means humble. The humble will be with you always. Should it also be marvelous in my eyes, declares Yahweh of hosts. Just because this is a big deal to the remnant of these people, is this a big deal to Yahweh? Now, it depends on how you read this and how the Spirit's moving. But I choose to interpret this as this. What we see as miracles from Yahweh are commonplace for Him. They're the expectation, not the exception to the rule. It's a big deal to us, but it's nothing more than wiggling His pinky finger to Him. And that should be our expectation and servitude to the Most High. That for Him, miracles are so commonplace, they're to be expected. And for us, that's the expectation that we need to walk in, because He loves us. Oh, how He loves us. Should it also be marvelous in my eyes? Yah is so magnificent, He swears by Himself, for there's nothing greater to swear by. Okay. Apart from Him, we are nothing. As a part of Him, there's nothing that's off the table. It's all doable. I'm awake, telephone. How dare you? So rude, you know? Thus said Yahweh of hosts, see, I'm saving my people from the land of the sunrise and from the land of the sunset, from the east and the west. What's west of Jerusalem? Oh, well, here we go, map recon again. Boom. The Philistines are west, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gaza. Was to the east, Ammon, Moab, the Aramean tribes. It did not. Imagine this. You may find this hard to believe. They didn't really get along with their neighbors, and their neighbors didn't really get along with them. Love your neighbor as yourself. I know, but there's just so hard to get along with. Love your neighbor as yourself. The Philistine and the Ammonite and the Moabite. There's two ways one can make peace. One is with kindness and the other is with the sword. Look at global geopolitical events right now. Let's ask ourselves, how well is that sword working for us? You kill one bad guy and 10 more bad guys come to the funeral. We make more bad guys because we radicalize them by killing bad guys. Now, existential threat? Yeah, sure. But not everything's an existential threat. You can't, as a nation, violate ceasefires 962 times in the last 77 years and point fingers at everybody else. So they're the bad guys. I know, data. I'm a data guy. And I shall bring them back. I, Yahweh, will bring them back. And they shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem, and they shall be my people, and I shall be their Elohim in truth and in righteousness. Near-term prophetic happening in the time of Zechariah. Also long-term prophetic for us. Points to the second Exodus. And there's also this ring, this echo of Hebrews chapter 8. And I shall be their Elohim. They shall be my people, and I shall be their Elohim, in truth and in righteousness. Hebrews chapter 8 is a word-for-word direct quote of Jeremiah chapter 31, verses 31 through 34. The renewed covenant, which requires the Father's laws, instructions, Torah be written on our heart, and then he will be our Elohim, and then we will be his people, which dovetails into Revelation 12:17 and 14 verse 12. Here is the endurance of the saints, the set apart ones, those that have a testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach and keep the commands. As evidence of a heart condition bred through obedience of a bride to her husband, the Most High made flesh, Yeshua HaMashiach. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, let your hands be strong, you who are listening in these days, to these words from the mouth of the prophets of the day of the foundation was laid for the house of Yahweh of hosts. The temple was to be rebuilt. Let your hands be strong, commit yourself to the work. From the day you laid the foundation of this place, it was guaranteed that this was going to be built. Listen to the prophets. Which prophets? Well, contemporarily, for the hearer of this word, 2,545 years ago, Zechariah, Haggai, Nehemiah, Ezra, Zerubbabel. How many more witnesses do we need? In the mouths of 2 or 3, let a thing be established. All right, well, here's 5. Okay, cool. From the day you laid the foundation, it was blessed, it was ordained, it would come to pass. So let your hands be strong, commit yourself to the work. And remember, I told you there was a period of time, about 16 years, where those who were rebuilding the temple, they did an intentional slowdown. Because 70 years of exile hadn't yet been completed. The captivity was ended in 538 BC. The Second Temple doesn't begin to be rebuilt until 521 BC, because I believe rightly, those that returned to the land were like, but the 70 years hasn't yet been completed. It's a difference of 16, 17 years between when they began to rebuild the temple and when the captivity was ended. And when the temple was completed, 516 BC, rededicated at the appointed time of trumpets in the fall Moedim, High Holy Days. That was 70 years from when Daniel was taken, 71 years from when the temple was destroyed. The temple destroyed in 587 BC. Rededicated in 516 BC. For before these days, there was not a wage for men. They didn't have any resources. They couldn't pay any wages. They had no money to pay people, nor to hire a beast. See, oxen back in the day, those were the dump trucks and pickup trucks of the day. There was no peace for him who went out or came in because of his enemies. And I set all men one against another. It was not a time of peace. It's a time of scarcity and warfare. Every time you get a scarcity of resources, you get warfare. But now I am not as in the former days to the remnant of this people, declares Yahweh of hosts. Wait a minute. Malachi 3 verse 6, I'm the Lord Yahweh Sabaoth, I changed not. Yes, strategically overarching, I changed not. His word will not return to him void. Which word? Deuteronomy 28. They were disobedient, therefore they reaped the curses that they committed to as part of their ketubah marriage covenant in Deuteronomy 28. And Yahweh was wroth with them, which is a biblical phrase that translates directly as he was pissed off with them. He's furious with them because of their disobedience, their whoring and their idolatry. But now, I'm not as in the former days to the remnant of this people. Now, because they're returning in obedience, coming back to him, he loves them. See, unbelievers, or those weak in the faith and short on knowledge, can and do surmise that we've been in an abusive relationship with a bad husband for millennia. That's not true, because their ego and pride will not allow them to see that those that failed the relationship are us. We're the whore. We're the ones that mess around, run away, are not faithful, are not obedient, don't listen to the words of our husband. It's pretty tough to have a successful relationship without commitment and obedience. And yet, he rejoices to take us back. I mean, we see this. Is it Amos? First thing he says, let's go marry a whore. Maybe it's Hosea. Yeah. Good. Daniel. Hosea. Hosea. The beginning of the word of Yahweh with Hosea. And Yahweh said to Hosea, go, take yourself a woman of whoring and children of whoring, for the land has utterly whored away from Yahweh. And this is an example physically, in the physical plane, of the relationship between the father and his wife, us. Go tell the prophet to take a whore for a wife. Is Messiah a prophet? Yup. Matthew 24. Read the last chapter of Luke. Messiah is a prophet. Is his bride a whore? Yeah. For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of Yahweh Elohim. And because of that, here in Zechariah chapter 8, for Zechariah's contemporaries, he's saying, hey, we were disobedient and we got punished for it. But now, Yah's saying, our husband is turning his face back to us. But now I am not as in the former days to the remnant of this people, declares Yahweh of hosts. Because of the sowing of peace, the vine does give its fruit, the ground does give her increase, and the heavens do give their due. And I shall cause the remnant of this people to inherit all these. The remnant, those left over, sifting mechanism. Those that are still here. Here's the endurance of the saints. Those that have a testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach and keep the commands. Those who have endured, the remnant, those who are left. Those who have completed the race. For no man runs a race as if not to win the prize. So run the race. Thank you, Shaul of Tarsus. And it shall be, as you were a curse among the nations, O house of Judah and house of Israel, so I shall save you, and you shall be a blessing. Do not fear, let your hands be strong. Let your hands be strong, continue your work, but you were accursed because you were cursed because you transgressed. Deuteronomy 28. But now you shall be blessed. Have you read Deuteronomy 28 lately? It's a great reminder. It goes into our expectation, manages expectations for what our relationship with the Most High should look like. And it shall be, if you diligently obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, to guard to do all his commands, which I command you today, that Yahweh your Elohim shall set you high above all the nations of the earth, and all these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you, if you obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim. And all these blessings, blessed are you in the city, in the field, the fruit of your body, the fruit of your increase, your livestock, your flocks. Blessed is your basket and your kneading bowl. Blessed are you when you come in and when you go out, when you go to make war. Yahweh causes your enemies to rise against you and be smitten before your face. Yahweh commands blessings on you in your storehouses and in all which you set your hand, and shall bless you in the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you. Yahweh does establish you as a set-apart people to himself, as he has sworn to you. Sworn, vowed, vows, marriage to you, if you guard the commands of Yahweh your Elohim and walk in his ways. And all the people of the earth shall see that the name of Yahweh is called upon you, and they shall be afraid of you, they shall fear you. Does a wife take her husband's name when they get married? And the name of Yahweh is called upon you. And look at verse 15. And it shall be, if you do not obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, to guard and do all his commands and all his laws which I command you today, that all these curses shall come upon you and overtake you. And it's the exact opposite. Cursed are you in the city, cursed are you in the field. Curse, 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 curse. They were disobedient, therefore they were cursed. Now they're being obedient. They're heeding the call to return to the land, rebuild the temple, come back into communion relationship, come back to the house. Babe, I love you, just come home. Come back to the house. So I shall save you, and you shall be a blessing. Do not fear, let your hands be strong. For thus said Yahweh of hosts, as I purpose to do evil to you when your fathers provoked me, declares Yahweh of hosts, and I did not relent. So again in these days I have purposed to do good in Jerusalem and to the house of Judah. Do not fear. It's okay. Do not fear. Don't be afraid. Come here. You reap what you sow. So Yahweh of Malachi 3 verse 6 does not change. And he does not change in his righteousness and right ruling. His bride was disobedient, and therefore they suffered the consequences, because if they didn't, he'd be a liar. He's not the liar. These are the words you should do. Now again, Western mindset, we think of words equals hear, maybe speak, not do. But it's what we do that matters. Behold, I come swiftly to reward each man according to his works. Messiah, Revelation 22. You shall know them by their fruits. Messiah in the Gospels. These are the words that you should do. Speak the truth to one another. Judge with truth and right ruling, for peace in your gates. Do not plot evil in your heart against one another, and do not love a false oath, for all these I hate, declares Yahweh. Truthfulness. This is all truthfulness. And the word of Yahweh of hosts came to me, saying, Thus said Yahweh of hosts, the fast of the 4th, and the fast of the 5th, and the fast of the 7th, and the fast of the 10th months are to be joy and gladness and pleasant appointed times for the house of Judah. And they shall love the truth and the peace. Now, remember back in chapter 7, there are some people in Bethel sent Sharetzer with Rezin Melech and his men to pray before Yahweh. So this is a mixed multitude of Yahudim and Babylonians who have come back into the land. Wait a minute. Your seed shall be the esteem of all nations. This belief in Yahweh was never to be simply about his chosen people. His chosen people are a city on a hill. For no man lights a lamp and puts it underneath a basket. Therefore let your light shine so forth before men. And the way that you live is your greatest testimony. Not your words, what you do. These are the words you should do. Okay? So back in chapter 7, this mixed multitude comes to Zechariah, and in verse 3 he says, should I weep in the 5th new moon and fast as I've done for so many years? These were fasts that's now being denoted in 8 verse 19. These are fasts that all remembered the destruction of the temple. And so as the temple's being rebuilt, they're like, hey, do we still fast? Are we still doing this thing? Because if we're rebuilding the temple, do I need to remember the destruction of the temple? And Yah's answer, in a nutshell, is, I never told you to fast in the first place. You guys came up with this yourselves. Should you keep doing something that I didn't tell you to do? No, because I never told you to do it. That's deep. So now Yah's saying in 8:19, the fast of the 4th, the fast of the 5th, the fast of the 7th, and the fast of the 10th months are to be joy and gladness and pleasant appointed times for the house of Judah. And they shall love the truth and the peace. Temple's rebuilt. We're back in covenant. House was wrecked. Our husband's house was wrecked. But it's being rebuilt. There's an echo of Proverbs here in Proverbs 31. She builds her house. A good wife. We read Proverbs 31 all the time through the lens of our physical covenant relationship with our wife. When was the last time you read it thinking, oh, I'm the bride and Messiah is my husband? Ephesians 5. Read Ephesians 5. That whole chapter is this beautiful comparison between Messiah and his wife, the church, the ecclesia, the body. Not denominations, not cathedrals, not buildings with steeples on them. The people. Messiah and the church. Yah and his chosen people. Okay? That whole chapter is this analogy, this metaphor, this parable between Messiah and the church and a husband and his wife. So now Yah's saying, hey, these days, if you're going to remember these days, they're days of joy because the temple has been restored. The house is being rebuilt. My husband's house is being rebuilt. No, we don't need to mourn anymore. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, people shall yet come, inhabitants of many cities, and the inhabitants of the ones one to another, saying, let us earnestly go and pray before Yahweh and seek Yahweh of hosts. I myself am going. And many peoples and strong nations shall come to seek Yahweh of hosts in Jerusalem and to pray before Yahweh. This is not the Wailing Wall. There's strong historic evidence that the Wailing Wall is a Roman fortress wall, not the Temple Mount wall. But even if it was the Temple Mount wall, even if we just go with that, this is not put your hand on the wall, put the kippah, the yarmulke on your head, and bounce back and forth and pay homage. This is not that. This is the fulfillment, a precursor to the fulfillment of the covenant with Abraham. And your seed, those descended from Abraham. Father Abraham has many sons, and many sons have Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's all praise the Lord. Right arm, left arm. Father Abraham. Okay. We are to be the esteem of all nations, dovetails perfectly into the Great Commission. Therefore go forth and make believers out of all nations. It's not a New Testament construct. Here it is in the middle of the book in Zechariah. We can find it in the first book in the Bible, in Genesis. We are the light, and the light shines into the darkness, and the darkness comprehendeth it not. No, Messiah is the light. You will do all these things and more in my name. Whose power and authority is in us? Not because we're cool, but when my wife calls the bank, she speaks on my behalf. When my wife operates inside of my companies, dealing with staff, dealing with vendors, problem solving, she operates on my behalf. She operates with my authority. We operate with Messiah's authority. And many nations, all nations, are to see us, to see our obedience, which produces these Deuteronomy 28 blessings. Go, I want some of that too. And many peoples and strong nations shall come to seek Yahweh of hosts in Jerusalem, and to pray before Yahweh, to come to the temple. Where's the temple now? It's in our hearts. Who's the high priest in the order of Melchizedek? He predates the Levitical priesthood, since before four-dimensional space-time existed. Yeshua. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, in those days 10 men from all languages of the nations take hold, yes, they shall take hold of the edge of the garment of a man, a Yehudi, saying, let us go with you, for we have heard that Elohim is with you. Book of Acts, anyone? For we write to you, Acts 15, verses 15 through 19, not to be troubled, but to abstain from whoring, idolatry, strangulation, and blood, and go to the temple on the Sabbath to hear the words of Moses. The edge of the garment of a man, a Yehudi. Sounds a lot like the woman with the blood issue, doesn't it? If I could just touch his hem, his zitziot, the hem of his garment, his tassels. Saying, let us go with you, for we have heard that Elohim is with you. I would just be healed if I could just touch the hem of his garment. Which Yehudi? And this is, we won't spend too much time in this rabbit hole. You'll hear often, Jesus was a Jew. Ethnically, not religiously. And the religiosity of the day, in Messiah's time, Pharisaical Judaism, is what he railed against, which was the precursor to the rabbinic Judaism of today. He was of the tribe of Judah, a man of Judea, had to have been, prophesied to have been, in order to be in the line of King David, on his father's side. Alma versus Betula, this old argument again. He was not a practicing religious Jew. Not what we know Judaism to be today. He railed against it. Read Colossians chapter 2. The doctrines and dogmas of men were nailed to the stake, the stauros, the cross. Therefore let no man judge you in eating or drinking or keeping of new moons or Sabbaths or high holy days, which are a shadow of what is to come, and the body of Christ. That's us. We are these things. So don't let the religious people give you a hard time about it, because their doctrines and dogmas were nailed to the cross. So Messiah is a man of Judea. He was not a practicing Jew. He rebuked the practicing Jews over and over and over again. he also would be lost if he was to walk into the vast majority of Christian churches today. If you read Revelation 2, 3, and 4, the rebukes to the 7 assemblies, what would he say about Christendom today? My belief is he'd say, my wife, what have you done? What have you done? I did not tell you to do this. I'm sorry, honey, I thought it was a good idea. No, I love you, but no. Stop. Do what I told you to do. Return to your first love. This is not what we discussed. I was away from the house for just a little while and I come home to this? No. Clean up this mess. Do what I told you to do. In those days, 10 men from all languages of the nations take hold, yes. They shall take hold of the edge of the garment of a man, a Yehudi, saying, let us go with you, for we have heard that Elohim is with you. Praise Yah, Elohim is with us. That's Zechariah chapter 8. Y'all have a blessed day. Shalom.